welcome to the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. It's Subaru's Stage 3, destination Stirling, the day that many have dubbed as the Queen stage of the race. Matthew Keenan with you, joined by former Australian Road Champion Kate Bates and former Australian Time Trial Champion Bridie O'Donnell. The conditions are perfect, it's just on 19.8 degrees, and the defending champion Amanda Spratt once again finds herself in the leader's jersey. Kate, yesterday it was a strong demonstration by Spratt and her team, but her lead is slender. The race is still wide open.
The race is wide open, but goodness me, what an incredible ride by Amanda Spratt yesterday. And the whole Mitchelton Scott team, really. I mean, Grace Brown was absolutely incredible. Lucy Kennedy, Jessica Allen. You literally have to go through the full team list to really get the gravitas of what they did. The race is still wide open, but I think it's fair to say that Mitchelton Scott now have a very big target on their back. If a break goes away, they're the ones that have to chase. And, well, you never know what Chloe Hosking could do. She could recover a bit from yesterday, and it's still wide open.
Bridie, it was Chloe who won on stage 1. Yesterday, Mitchelton Scott, they put in a really strong performance because they kept their powder dry on stage 1. Let's take a look at a few of the highlights from stages 1 and 2. It all got underway on the open stage with the national champions represented at the front, including Amanda Spratt, the Australian champion, and the American champion Ruth Winder. Gracie Elvin off to a quick start winning that first intermediate sprint. We then saw the first serious attack of the race, and this was Van Witzenberg, who collected the first points of the race for the Subaru Queen of the Mountain. But through to the next of the sprints, it was Leah Kirschman once again from Sunweb picking up the all-important time bonus.
Sunweb came here with an important job to do, and they're highly motivated. And again, we saw other riders going on a break, and this is the 2018 Herald Sun Tour winner Brodie Chapman, who was out on her own all the way as they approached the finish line of stage 1.
And on their way to the finish, there was tension, the fight for positions. At the back, Nicole Frame from UniSA in Australian colours, she came down. Chloe Hosking, she sat the wheel of Hentala through the final corner. Then she exploded and she won brilliantly, proving that she is one of the best sprinters in the world.
She rocked it through. She almost got a perfect lead out from not her teammate, from Lotta Hentala. But fabulous for Chloe in a new jersey for rally to take that, swap one orange for the other to put on the Oka leader's jersey for Novatech Stage 2.
And at the beginning of stage 2, all of the riders spoke about the potential for crosswind, and that's exactly what we saw on the approach of the first of the intermediate sprints.
Things really split apart, didn't they, in that section, and these two riders opportunistically tried to get some of those intermediate sprint points in CHURSINA, the Russian from LA team, but you can see there Sunweb are highly motivated. They took out second points and then the second intermediate sprint for Kirschman once again.
Chloe Hosking, she finished in second position there. Hentala was third. Chloe Hosking trying to get the bonus seconds. Once the mountains arrived, though, it was Spratt who emerged at the fronts. Lippert in the red colours, the young German from Sunweb, she stuck with her. So too did Ruth Winder. But this was the moment where Spratt announced that she will be the woman to beat. Lippert moving into the lead of the Subaru Queen of the Mountains classification.
A tremendous ride from the 22-year-old German. But at the finish, Amanda Spratt just had that advantage in the sprint. She's very explosive for a pocket rocket climber. She's clearly on form riding in that Australian Champions jersey. And what a fabulous win to win in front of a home crowd in a National Champions jersey and with her lucky blue shoes on.
And quickly she had her teammates on hand to congratulate her. They all put in a huge performance. It's into the Adelaide Hills, starting in Nan, making its way through to Stirling. The opening part of the stage is the calmest from the midway point. The race is certainly on. The first of the intermediate sprints, that comes after just 22.8 kilometres. It's then onto the San Remo past the feed zone before they approach the crucial part of this year's race. There's a short gravel section and 3 laps around Stirling.
I'm very interested to see how they navigate this 1 kilometre of dirt. It's not a long part of off-road, but it could lead to bad luck for riders. They might puncture or lose some contact, and it could be really advantageous to someone who feels comfortable riding on the dirt.
The final climb today, Kate, that tops out with 16.7 kilometres to go, but they go 3 times around the circuit in through Stirling. There's a lot more climbing than what the Queen of the Mountain classification indicates.
Well, it's quite dragged out, actually. They go through Stirling, 74.1 kilometres for the second zip track sprint, and head over to the QOM. But the total climbing for the day is roughly equal to climbing Alpe d'Huez, which is so significant, but we don't have one single moment of that. Instead, from kilometre 1, they will be slogging it uphill mostly and on quite dead roads. I think the fatigue will really lump onto the riders, and this finishing circuit, well, it's tough.
In Australian terms, that's climbing almost from sea level to the top of Mount Kosciuszko. There is a lot of climbing. In those final circuits around Stirling, there's hardly a flat stretch of road, so that will make it difficult for the Mitchelton Scott team to control the race, and that is what the rivals of Amanda Spratt are certainly hoping for. Just short of 110 kilometres the stage. It got underway with perfect conditions once again. The weather has been mild, and that's good, particularly for the internationals.
Oh, it's been lovely for the internationals. Normally when they come down under, they really struggle with the heat, and it gives the Australians quite a natural advantage. And they've kind of eaten away at that with these milder conditions, but I know that the Europeans and the Americans are quite pleased for that. Look at that, the cricketers cheering them on. Does it get any more Australian than that?
Even Saturday morning cricket took a pause to wait for the peloton to make its way past. Amanda Spratt in a familiar position for her, Bridie, as the overall race leader. She's won this race 3 times in the past. That must give her a lot of confidence.
She's often been known to be a little cagey about her ambition, but definitely we know this team is targeting the 4th win for her. She rode so well on the climb yesterday, particularly with the support of Grace Brown, her teammate. It's great seeing so many locals really getting behind this race. So Mitchelton definitely have to defend a jersey, but we also saw a couple of teams didn't take an opportunity where they might have. Rachel NEYLAN, we know, is trying to move up on GC. She's riding for the UniSA team. And also Roxsolt Attaquer.
Making their way onto Forest Road, and Ride Forest Ride is exactly what the peloton did. And we saw the local, Tiffany Cromwell, open up the box of chocolates by launching the first serious attack.
I like that, Matt. I think Tiffany Cromwell was always going to have an impact today. She was born and bred in Stirling, and this stage means a lot to her. She knows the roads like the back of her hand. It's not a surprise. I think a lot of people would have been watching out for her.
This is the first intermediate sprint, and Kirschman's teammate took out the points, so no change to intermediate sprint classifications at the moment. You can see Cromwell coming over the line there in second.
Anna Henderson, she's been a British champion. She is a great bike rider, and Sunweb are so much better off for having riders like that playing a support role, such strong riders.
And then it was on to the San Remo past the feed zone. Breakaway group of 5 riders building up a significant advantage. Through that zip track intermediate sprint in Larbathol, it was Henderson first. Tiff Cromwell, the local, was in second position. And Mel Grostet, the Frenchwoman from FDJ, was in third place. Subaru Stage 3 of the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. We pick it up live with the peloton under the control of the Mitchelton Scott team, the teammates of the race leader Amanda Spratt. In terms of the general classification, Kate, it's pretty tight. Her lead is just 4 seconds ahead of the American champion Ruth Winder. It's then Liane Lippert in third position, just 5 seconds behind. Next best, though, for Amanda Spratt, importantly, is her teammate Grace Brown at 12 seconds behind. That gives Mitchelton Scott the 2-card trick still to play if it comes down to a really tactical game in the final few Ks.
The way that this stage has already played out has been quite interesting, because they know how tough the course is. You know, they know that it's constantly uphill for the day, even though it's not necessarily insignificant climbs. For Mitchelton Scott to be taking responsibility, and it's Jessica Allen and Georgia Williams on the front there, former New Zealand champion, and Jess Allen, she's one of our most impressive young riders. She can literally time trial on the front all day. But this will take a big toll. I can't imagine either of those riders will have a lot left in the tank for the business end of the race. That could really impact and cost Mitchelton Scott.
In the lead into the 2020 Santos Women's Tour Down Under, we had a chance to ask the riders about today's pivotal stage.
Stage 3 starting in Nairn. It's one of those stages that's just going to get harder and harder as we get into it. We've got that gravel section before we enter the final circuits in Stirling. 1 extra lap of the final circuit. It's just going to make it really, really hard, and I expect it to be in 1s and 2s by the finish line.
So I'm really looking forward to Stage 3. We had a chance to look at it, and I'm really excited for just the circuit at the end. It's going to be rolly and punchy and quick, and I think that suits us pretty well, and we're really looking forward to seeing what we can do at the finish on the climb.
Yeah, this one ends with a really hard circuit of a pretty long climb near the end, and we do it 3 times, and the finish is at the top. So it's it's going to be a big battle, I think, of the climbers really going for it, and kind of the all-rounders seeing if they can look for opportunities to get ahead of the race.
Stage 3, the Stirling stage, one of my favourites. I was third there last year. It's actually tougher than what it looks on paper. So I think with our 2 finishing laps around the Stirling course, it's going to make for a really hard finish. But as you know, as always, it just depends how aggressive the racing is. But with the high class, I guess, with the world. The higher class this year that we have in the women's race, I think it's definitely going to be quite aggressive, especially since it's the last day before the short criterium stage. So we can expect fireworks in that final circuit up to Stirling. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that stage.
I'm a little worried about my hearing. I'm sure that I just heard Rachel NEYLAN say that it's harder than it looks this stage.
It looks pretty hard. Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes the course profiles can be a little bit deceptive. And you look at them and you think, well, you know, the scale, it can't be too bad. But Rachel knows these roads incredibly well. She's trained on a lot of them. And it's the surface of the road, we've spoken about it a number of times, that makes it really challenging. On a lot of these roads that are a little bit rough, they're not beautiful bitumen, if you don't keep pedalling, you don't keep moving. So it builds fatigue for the riders.
And pedalling is exactly what the peloton is doing, because this is the breakaway group of 5, and it is a dangerous breakaway because of rider 141. That is Matilda Reynolds. She starts today in 16th position overall, just 30 seconds down in the general classification. At one point their advantage was out to 1 minute and 50 seconds. It's now tumbled back down to just on 50 seconds.
Breakaways aren't successful if they won't ride together, and we could see those 6 riders were still working really well together. Obviously Matilda Reynolds is in the box seat at the moment. If the race were to end right now, she would take the ochre jersey because she's in the virtual lead right now. It means a lot to her. The other riders, they're just looking for a stage win and for a stage result, so mixed ambition out there, but it is making it good cohesion within the group, but Mitchelton Scott are chasing hard.
Number 31 at the back of the group, that's Lotte Hentala. Number 46, that's Anna Trevisi. Number 22 from Canyon SRAM, that's Tanya Ereth. In the UniSA colours, who you see towards the back of the group, is Josie Talbot. And in the orange colours for the rally team, that's Heidi Franz, one of the teammates of Chloe Hosking. Matilda Reynolds, we've mentioned. 46 seconds their gap, 47.5 kilometres to go. They know they're 1 kilometre from the gravel.
Well, this group had an advantage of 1 minute and 50 seconds just 10-15 minutes ago. So you can see that the chase by Mitchelton is absolutely serious. They want to cut this advantage down, and things will come together in the kilometres after the gravel section. But this will be where the group decides, do we stay together and utilise this, or do others like Reynolds try and make a move?
Kate, because this group is small, 5 riders, 6 riders I should say, it won't be causing any tension for them, the fact that they are approaching the gravel, but back in the peloton it will be.
Well, it absolutely. So to explain to our viewers why gravel is trouble is because you're prone to a lot more flat tyres, firstly. Secondly, moving within the bunch isn't as easy because you can't keep as consistent and straight line, so there's more risk of a fall. Add to that just some general nervousness because, oh my goodness me, you've got rocks literally being flicked up from wheels and flying in your face. And Bridie, I mean, you've ridden in some of these races that have gravel and cobbles. It hurts when you get flicked in the face by a rock. So there's an awful lot going on. It's only 1 kilometre, but if that creates this incredible tension within the bunch, we might see a fall, we might see flat tyres. The flow on of that when there's only 45 kilometres left to race is incredible. This front group of 6, they can afford to leave a metre or two, a length or two between each other. They can spread out across the road as we hit the gravel section now. Matilda Reynolds leading onto that, unsurprisingly. She loves the gravel, absolutely loves it and relishes it, and she's taking the opportunity to really push on through here.
She's applying the pressure, but she needs some company. She cannot drop all the riders from this group. Josie Talbot is being distanced, so too is Ereth, number 22 from Canyon SRAM, but Matilda Reynolds at least needs to keep a few with her, surely.
She does. I mean, it would be very hard to go solo, very, very hard, but she's an incredibly talented athlete. The 32-year-old was a really successful triathlete before she came to cycling. It's taken a few years to find her legs and to understand the strategy of the sport, but she's well and truly arrived. 3rd on stage 1. She's on form. This really suits her. Yeah, maybe it's a risk, but why not take it?
Bridie, we spoke after stage 1 about Matilda perhaps underestimating her own ability. Matilda, you've got the horsepower, and now Matilda herself is starting to believe.
She absolutely does. We know she does some pretty interesting training, and she went even to Everest Base Camp and was involved in some Everesting over there in that area. So she's absolutely aggressive.
There's altitude training, and then there's altitude training.
Yeah. I don't know if she's attacking. I think she just wants to ride this gravel section at her own pace that suits her.
What this is doing, the gravel is causing some problems for Jessica Allen. The Mitchelton Scott team, number 4, she's been distanced. So too at the back of the group, we're seeing Van Witzenberg lose contact.
And we saw on the side of the road as Jessica Allen rode by a gentleman standing holding a bottle out to her. That was actually her team mechanic, Nico. And he was standing there with some spare wheels because they are worried about the potential for getting flat tyres along here. And if they had to wait for the team cars which follow the main peloton to get there, it could be day over. So that's very smart of Mitchelton to consider that.
What would be smart tactically would be for Sunweb and Trek-Segafredo to go on the fronts and make the most of this gravel to try and get rid of more riders from Mitchelton Scott.
It's actually not too difficult to surface, but you're right, Kate, about some of the elements of tension that arise, and even just dust and not being able to see where you go. So while we've seen professional women riders navigate much more challenging surfaces, this still breaks up a stage that, as NEYLAN said, is still stressful. People are still thinking, wow, I've got 3 climbs up over Aldgate into Stirling to go, and even now I'm putting my legs under a bit more stress.
Quite often you're not even thinking about holding the wheel in front of you. You're just focused on staying upright, not hitting all the rocks, navigating through the dust. So gaps open up, and you can see that happening at the back of the bunch without you really realising. That takes an awful lot of energy to chase back on, even if it's a length or two. Mitchelton Scott losing Georgia Williams here. She's done a tremendous job.
It looks like Georgia Williams has had a fall, and that again highlights the danger.
Absolutely. I mean, and with the fatigue as well, with she and Allen riding so hard at the start, looks like part of her shoe is broken as well and is moving around, which is going to be distracting and really annoying for her. So there's just these elements she's just got to get through that road and then get some service afterwards.
Full credit to Kimberly Conti on course design this year. This is absolutely sensational to throw these kind of elements in. I think it makes it more exciting, and it does change the dynamic. That's Jess Allen, and she's labouring. She's done such an incredible job. Yesterday she did the lion's share of the work early on to help Mitchelton Scott establish that break. Matilda Reynolds leading the breakaway here, and she's off the front. But look, that gap has come significantly down. They're well within sight. But interesting that there is quite a gap there. No, she didn't necessarily attack, but she's clearly on really good form.
She is super strong. She sits in 16th position overall, 30 seconds behind the race lead of Amanda Spratt, 3rd on stage 1. And she could be excused, Matilda Reynolds, for trying to just survive through today and think about potentially winning the stage tomorrow. This is a look on the left-hand side. There's been a little touchdown. That is Williams at number 3. Bogart is number 41 from the LA team. Just Allen rolls by, and there's not much she can do because she needs to do everything she can possibly do to get back in contact with the peloton to support Spratt.
Let's talk tech for a second, because Matilda Reynolds is riding this beautiful specialised bike with disc brakes. That gives her a natural advantage over gravel. When you have caliper rim brakes and you're over gravel, well, the rocks and everything can fly up and get stuck and impede the travel of the wheel. But the disc brakes, well, it's a small thing, but for that 1 kilometre, that did really help Reynolds.
Subaru Stage 3 of the Santos Women's Tour down under. Stirling is the destination. The gravel is done. The climbs are still to come. Santos Women's Tour Down Under, Subaru Stage 3, destination Stirling, and it's Matilda Reynolds in the breakaway group of 6 who is on the charge. She starts today in 16th position overall, just 30 seconds behind the race leader Amanda Spratt. Matthew Keenan with you, joined by 2 former Australian champions on the road. One in the road race in Adelaide, Kate Bates, and another one, it was out in Buninyong in the time trial, Bridie O'Donnell. Kate, this is a day where the race, surely the final big decisions to who wins overall are done, because tomorrow it's the street circuit in Adelaide, but with the gaps being so tight, just maybe it comes down to the wire.
In previous editions, we've seen it come down to points that have been earned chasing this sprint jersey, so this is quite a significant classification.
Kirschman is the leader. She's on 99 points. It's Hosking who was the winner of Stage 1 in 2nd position on 89. It's then Hentala in 3rd place. She's currently in the breakaway. Lippert in 4th position, and she's well placed in the overall standings. It's then Gracie Alvin. Anna Henderson in 6th position. She's moved up today as a result of winning the first of the intermediate sprints, followed by Mullens, then CHURSINA, Lebus, and then Kessler. Mullens yesterday was impressive to get some points at the stage finish. This breakaway, though, it looks as if it's just about done.
Well, 7 kilometres to go to that second intermediate sprint zip track, and it'll be in Stirling on Mount Barker Road. So the riders will have an opportunity to see how the finish approach is, but it's not identical to the finish line. We can see now Sunweb are going to be really motivated to maintain the position of Kirschman, the woman who's holding that zip track sprint jersey.
So taking the points classification out of it, this next intermediate sprint, let's not forget, there's a 3-second time bonus for the win. Spratt leads overall 4 seconds ahead of Ruth Winder, the American national champion. Surely she has to take some interest in this intermediate sprint.
It's significant, but it's more significant today than the other days. Firstly, because we're closer to the end of the bike race and people know where others stand. There's far fewer who are actually in contention. But more than that, it's a really tough circuit. The sprint is into Stirling, which is the finish line. It's a bit of a slog up to there. It's not your traditional flat run-in downhill sprint. It's actually difficult just to get the intermediate sprint. I don't think that too many teams will want to do a long lead out, a hard lead out, and spend their energy, because they're opening themselves up for an attack straight over the top, which I might say is the best time to attack after an intermediate sprint. It's one of those moments that everybody sits up, pauses, a very good opportunity. So I think that Mitchelton Scott in particular need to be quite diligent. That break of 6 that went away wasn't too dangerous, but Mitchelton Scott, well, they've lost 2 riders as a result. They've worked so hard, Jessica Allen and Georgia Williams, to bring that back, so they're now down to 4. That's quite significant.
Life is tough at the back of the peloton. Number 154, who you can see in the Roxsolt Attaquer colours, that's Bree Wilson. That team's been riding well. They have Peter Mullens sitting in 8th position overall. Peter Mullens spoke before the stage got underway, and she said yesterday was a 3-minute power climb. Today is 3 times with a big grind.
And you can see how narrow this road is, and it winds through the forest around Milo. You know, beautiful part of the world, but that makes it challenging when the pace is on. So as you said, that second half of this group constantly having to change where they are on the road.
They're not big wide open roads. As you say, Bridie, they wind through, and beautiful pictures here. Adelaide hills are so beautiful. But look at the edges of the road. Significantly, 1, they're dirt, but 2, there's quite a drop off. So you actually have to be very diligent when you're on the edge of the bunch. There's no opportunity to sneak up the middle. You're taking a very big risk if you do that. And you can see on the right of screen just how difficult it is. One of the Trek riders trying to navigate her way to the front, but she just gets shut out and it's all over. So the riders at the back of the bunch have 2 problems. Firstly, it's difficult to even get to the front. Second, they're in more danger of being dropped, of getting caught up in a fall. There is a lot of mental energy that goes into this phase of the race. The back end is really going to physically be very taxing, but this is the point where they need to be really sharp and considering what's coming.
Number 55 there is Lauren Kitchen from the Français de Jeu team. Her teammate Brodie Chapman and her other teammate Shara GILLOW are also joined by 3 French women who were delayed in Dubai for a few days and arrived probably pretty fatigued and a bit stressed about not making the start of the race. But
had a few days shopping in the mall.
They sure did. But Kitchen's a rider we know is always opportunistic on a stage like today, but she's not necessarily been climbing quite as well as some of these GC riders.
I think it shows a lot of intent, whether you're at the front or the back. For her to be sitting at the back when she knows the danger, that's not a good sign.
This is a problem for Jamie Gunning. She is the leader of the UniSA Best Young Rider classification, and that is a rear wheel puncher. So Jamie Gunning, she's also a teammate of Matilda Reynolds. She is making that jersey her big target, so she needs some teammates around her for support to try and chase and get back on.
I would expect her teammates to drop back and en masse, maybe not Matilda because you need to save one rider. She is the highest up on classification other than Jamie Gunning, so perhaps they leave Matilda and send a few teammates back to help her back up.
She wears the white jersey as the leader of the UniSA Best Young Rider classification. In fact, she's in second position in that competition. The leader is Liane LIPPERT, but she is also the leader of the Subaru Queen of the Mountains classification, which takes precedent. So it is Gunning who wears that jersey on loan, but it's the jersey she wants to take home.
There's an 18-second disadvantage for Gunning. So and we heard her say on the start line this morning that, you know, they've got a lot of work to do. She said she feels happy, but she's not satisfied to be in second, and they're going to do everything they can to hold that and get into that jersey by tomorrow.
The bunch is starting to look quite reduced already. On the front is Lucy Kennedy from Mitchelton Scott, and significantly Amanda Spratt in the ochre jersey with the distinctive blue shoes just tucked into second. They're taking this sprint very seriously. That 4 seconds, well, they're aware of that, and they're not going to let somebody take those intermediate points that could affect her overall standing and then attack over the top. So this is a bit of a danger point, but Lucy Kennedy is shepherding Spratt in the best way possible.
Just behind Spratt is LIPPERT in the Queen of the Mountain jersey, and then on her wheel was Emily Herfoss, the Roxsolt Attaquer rider we've spoken about before, riding incredibly well and wanting to put herself into a really good position for these climbs.
The orange colours, this is Doyle Hickok. I thought it might have been Heidi France who was in the breakaway. It is in fact Heidi France. It was Heidi France who's... How quickly things can change, Kate. 1 minute you're in the breakaway, you might be still in the show. The next minute you're out the back and you're tuning into race radio.
Yeah, well, you have to take that risk, and I think when you are in a breakaway, there isn't a part of you that's a bit desperate because you know if it doesn't survive, you may not survive. She's going to have a long back end of the race here if she's solo for 40 kilometres, but a sensational ride early in the break. But a tough finish, I think.
Mitchelton Scott, they are controlling the race at the front with Lucy Kennedy, but we've seen a few of their riders in difficulty. They have Grace Brown still in this group, but Gracie Alvin has been at the back, she's under pressure. Georgia Williams has crashed and she is chasing. Jessica Allen has also been dropped. So Amanda Spratt is running out of teammates.
And there are a lot of riders who are highly motivated after probably not getting a result they wanted. We can see Rachel NEYLAN in number 131 on the right-hand side of the screen in about 7th position. She really wants to move up today. This is a course that suits her, and you mentioned Kate, she was 3rd overall on the stage last year.
Kate, this feels like potentially the longest lead out in the history of cycling for an intermediate sprint. It is still 3.8 kilometres before they get to the zip track intermediate sprint in Stirling.
Well, and it's more or less 3.8 kilometres uphill, and I think Lucy Kennedy and Amanda Spratt sitting 1-2 are quite cognizant of that fact.
Some sprint.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's always quite funny watching the climbers sprint. You know, sometimes it's a little bit in slow motion. But the sprint, let's not think of the zip track sprint as a sprint. Let's think of it as an opportunity to gain some intermediate points and time bonuses. But more than that, making sure nobody attacks through that start-finish line, because Mitchelton Scott are down to 4 riders. They simply don't have the manpower to put in a massive chase if a break goes without them. Trek-Segafredo have been moving up quite consistently. They smell danger, and I think that that's a very good showing of how they feel about their overall chances.
Do they smell danger or do they smell opportunity?
Yeah, I knew you were going there.
Absolutely, it's an opportunity. That's my perspective on it. And I think also after these advantage points and time bonuses, they still keep climbing up, and then it's a descent down through Heathfield into Marla, and then they do it all again. So they're going to get very familiar with these roads.
We've got half of the Roxsolt Attaquer team at the back here. This shows a bit of inexperience because they're strong riders. Peter Mullens and Justine Barrow, they're very capable. They're too far back. They really need to put a little bit of effort into moving up if they want to be in the business end of the race.
They have 5 riders remaining in the race. 4 of them are at the back of the peloton. One of them is at the front of the peloton, and that is Emily Herfoss. Her husband is a multiple Australian Superbike champion, so he's done a fair bit of work with her on positioning and staying in the right spot. As I say that, she's starting to drift towards the back as well, number 153. Is that the cycling commentator's curse?
You know, it's actually quite difficult. It's hard to see on screen just how tough it is to maintain the position at the front, but very often a rider will use all their energy to scooch up the side and get to the front, and then one by one, as this hustle bustle begins, they get shunted back a bit, and that's why you need a teammate to look after you and really carry you the way. FDJ, maybe Brodie Chapman here. Oh, this could be a really interesting move for the Australian.
And she's got Shara GILLOW there just behind her, another highly credentialed climber, and her teammates. So what we're seeing, if you were looking at your start list, we're seeing a lot of team captains or riders who are nominated as the best GC contender are in the front of this group. We've got riders like Brodie Chapman, Lauren Stevens, Tiffany Cromwell we haven't seen around the front section there, but obviously Raleigh have got their rider, and then along with Ruth Winder, Liane LIPPERT, Rachel NEYLAN, and then of course the Ochre jersey wearer Amanda Spratt.
They're going around the roundabout. Spratt is well positioned. She sits in roughly 6th place in that significantly reduced peloton.
And this is the finish straight, so they will come through here a number of times up to the finish. It's less than a couple of kilometres to go to the sprint now. Anybody who's done the Santos Women's Tour Down Under before is very familiar with this section. This is where Grace Brown won last year. Rachel NEYLAN really came into the fore. This is only an intermediate sprint, but they know how tough it is.
I always thought that Lucy Kennedy was really nice, but it turns out she's not very good at sharing. She's doing all the pacemaking on the front.
She's delightful. I just wouldn't want to race against her.
She is a powerhouse at the front, and now we're seeing the Roxsolt Attaquer colours on the left-hand side of the screen. That's Peta Mullens. She's the experienced member of that squad, and she's trying to position herself towards the front, followed very closely by Tiffany Cromwell. And you can see just poking in front of the Ochre Leaders jersey of Amanda Spratt is the winner of stage 1, Chloe Hosking.
She'll absolutely be hoping to get some time bonuses.
And in the general classification, Chloe is still in 5th position, just 21 seconds behind.
She had a great ride yesterday. There was some great vision of her suffering and working really hard up those climbs. Absolute full credit to her. People paint her as just a sprinter, but when they're not doing long climbs, she is more than capable. 1,600 metres of climbing, vertical climbing today. That's a tough course, but Chloe backs herself. She's the only one that says, I can win, I will win. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I suggest that we take Rachel NEYLAN to an optometrist because she said that today's course is harder than it looks. The road map looks really tough. Sarah Gigante, she's in the race. Her mum's an optometrist. We might need to look them up. Look at Lucy Kennedy, number 5 at the front for Mitchelton Scott. She is powering along, riding the big chain ring at this point. Robbie McEwen says spin to win. Rowan Dennis says mash for cash. And that is exactly what she's doing, setting up for this woman, the race leader, Amanda Spratt.
I think far more than anything for Amanda, it's just about protecting her position, making sure there's no danger. I don't think they're looking for opportunities in this moment. I think they're just looking for protection. And that's a wonderful thing when you wear the leader's jersey. You can change your tactics to be a little bit more defensive, not to the degree that it becomes negative, but you can own that, and you can kind of in a way manipulate the tactics of the other teams around that. Lucy Kennedy making it very clear what Mitchelton Scott want, and to be honest, the other teams are just slotting in behind and letting it happen.
Are they letting it happen, or are they incapable of doing anything else? Because Lucy Kennedy is simply so strong. She is a powerhouse at the front. You can see just drifting a little bit back is Pliska, number 32 from Trek-Segafredo. Speaking of mash for cash, 151, Justine Barrow. She always looks to be on a gear or two bigger than everybody else. Inside the final kilometre before the zip track intermediate sprint in Stirling, the red number is Grace Brown, 4th overall, most aggressive from yesterday.
And you can see the red and white jersey with the red helmet is Liane LIPPERT. She's been told by her team Sunweb just stay on or around the wheel of Amanda Spratt. That's clearly her job all day long, and she'll be looking to see some QOM points later in the race.
And that's a smart tactic from her and from Sunweb. A very good way to approach the race is to make sure that LIPPERT follows Spratt and leaves the other riders to follow the other potential opportunities that may arise.
And now it's Grace Brown who starts to open up. Kirschman is on the left in the blue jersey as the leader of the zip track points classification. In the white with the polka dots, that is Lippert, but it's Spratt through the middle. 3-second time bonus. This is not the battle for points. This is a battle for time. It is a drag race to the finish line, and Ruth Winder throws her hat into the mix, and it's the American champion. She gets 3-second time bonus. Spratt with a 2-second time bonus, and then in third place, it's Lippert. The top three in the overall standings all come together at the finish line. Ruth Winder is now at 3 seconds behind.
A really aggressive move by Winder. I really like it, and she's showing herself to be someone who's really motivated. A quick interview that was done by David McKenzie at the start line, she said, you know, we want to move up, we want the jersey, and the team is here for a really serious reason. So I'm really impressed that Winder and Lippert are both there saying, we'll take time bonuses, we'll show you how it works.
That is so much effort for 1 second.
Yes.
You know, but it's a significant 1 second, and this is the attack we knew would happen over the top of the sprint.
Sarah Gigante, the current Australian time trial champion. Last year she was the road race champion. She's 19 years of age. The teenager is flying. This is the move.
And what's a ripper about this is a lot of the internationals won't really know Sarah Gigante. They'll know her by name, but they won't be able to recognise her style, and they won't know her on a bike. They won't know her strengths and weaknesses because she's 19 years old. She hasn't been over racing and showing her colours. This is a really good move by her. Taylor Wiles from Trek-Segafredo. Well, she's hot on her wheel. They could make an excellent pairing if they could open this up. Amanda Spratt's pretty diligent, though, in third wheel.
There'll be some sports directors then doing a crash course on Sarah Gigante right now.
Well, they'd be looking at her date of birth first and say, my goodness me, that is very impressive. You know, we see some of these riders who haven't had anywhere near the international experience of some of the professional women. And this is another shot here, aerial shot of the intermediate sprint. Zip Track also sponsoring the jersey, but this is really about time bonuses.
This also demonstrates, again, the three strongest riders in the race. These were the three who emerged yesterday. Ruth Winder, the American national champion. Kate, her timing in that sprint.
Ooh, it was pretty sassy move, actually. It was very classy. I think there was a moment's hesitation from Amanda Spratt. I don't think she expected that to pop around the outside. But Winder, you know, she rode the perfect sprint there. A lot of work for 1 second, but a significant second.
Through Stirling, stage 3 of the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. Spratt still leads, but Ruth Winder is making a move. Welcome back to Subaru Stage 3 of the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. The peloton, they've managed to reel back in the attempt to break away by Sarah Gigante, and the main field consists of around about 50 riders. All the big favourites are together. Amanda Spratt, she wears the leader's jersey, and she's hungry for a fourth victory in the Santos Women's Tour Down Under, and she believes she's got the team around her to make it happen.
I think certainly coming here, I got the hat-trick last year and going for number 4 this year, so I know during the race I'm going to be a marked woman. I won the Australian Championship, so that also puts a bit more of a target on my back as well. So it's always a challenge and there comes pressure with that, but I think with the team we have with Mitchelton Scott, we have a number of cards, a number of options. We've seen Grace Brown in brilliant form, Lucy Kennedy, we have another strong climber. So for me that sort of eases the pressure. I know I have great teammates and I think we're going to use that out on the road, but yeah, certainly quality competition. I think particularly from some of the domestic teams as well as World Tour teams like Trek-Segafredo who have been in Australia for a while, Sunweb, Canyon SRAM, so it's going to be exciting.
Now we can see the peloton once again is being led by Mitchelton Scott. This is Gracie Alvin who's returned to the head of the peloton, and this is exactly what Amanda spoke about, having strong team support around her.
They have lost 2 riders already because of their incredible work, I might add, in Georgia Williams and Jess Allen. They're now, Gracie Elvin becomes the sacrificial lamb. And that's how teams work. You know, one rider stands on the podium. But, Bridie, it's an input from every rider out there. Mitchelton Scott are showing that incredibly clearly. Amanda Spratt was able to deliver in the intermediate sprint or the rush for time bonuses because of the work of Lucy Kennedy, who's on the left of screen now. They've made their intention very clear. There's less than 30 kilometres to go. They could be in a bit of trouble if Elvin and Kennedy are called on to do too much work. If there's too many attacks, they will be the 2 riders who are responding. That could be a slightly dangerous situation for Mitchelton. I think they need to be aware of that. But we did notice that when Sarah Gigante attacked, it was Amanda Spratt who chased.
You can see how much this peloton size has been reduced, and there's another 13 or so kilometres until they reach the Subaru Queen of the Mountain final for this entire race. But what will happen is this will slowly just start to dwindle down, so it will be actually just a battle of 5 to 6 individual riders rather than needing a whole team to do the work on the front.
Sometimes when the race is just so tough, it's less about team and it's far more just about self-preservation. The bunch is not quite that reduced that we're at that, but I expect it to be. I think these closing circuits are really difficult. The riders know it. Rachel NEYLAN said it's harder than it looks, and it looks tough. You know, so the expectation, and it gets a little bit of fear. I know I've been on start lines before. I've looked at the course profile, and I felt almost terrified at what's to come. There's a lot of these riders who will be quite intimidated by it. Amanda Spratt, perhaps not, but it will play, I'd say, the back half of this bunch. There's a bit of fear brewing in there, and that's not very constructive when it comes to climbing hills and winning races.
The upside of this reduced size, though, of course, for a lot of these riders is there's just less tension around how the bunch moves through those roads. So the likelihood of a crash and those sorts of things are reduced, and so these riders are going to be feeling, in many ways, like a rider like Justine Barrow would think, good, there's less of us around, less people to worry about.
One person who is really enjoying this race is the UCI Management Committee and President of the UCI Women's Commission. It's Tracy Gaudry. She's currently with David McKenzie.
Well, thanks, guys. It's Tracy Gaudry from the UCI Management Committee and, of course, the Women's Commission as well. Tracy, what an exciting day here. What an exciting few days we've had, though, at the Women's Santos Tour Down Under.
This is the dawn of a new era for women's cycling. We've got the global calendar for cycling, a new pro series, and the Santos Women's Tour Down Under is the first race on the global calendar.
It's a good move. What about the next couple of years? What are you working on?
What we now have is the first ever elite tier of women's cycling in teams, women's world teams, professional salaries, professional conditions. It's up and up from here.
Enjoy today.
Thank you very much.
Well, Tracy Gaudry, she is leading the march, particularly for women's cycling in at the UCI, but as an athlete, she was a brilliant athlete. She was Australian road champion, Australian time trial champion, and a dual Olympian. And sometimes that's forgotten with all the work that she's now doing to make the sport better.
And significantly, she mentioned the changes that have been happening in the women's peloton. This year they have a minimum wage, €40,000 for each rider. That's very significant. I've got to tell you, I pretty much raced for bread and rice when I started. So it means
That's
that
a lot of carbs.
yes,
I'm worried about your
anything right.
protein intake.
But it means that the riders have an opportunity to develop and make this a career. The Roxsolt Attaquer girls, they were at the back. This is what happens when you're sitting at the back, a bit of danger, and they have been tailed off. They're not giving up though, they're chasing hard.
That's Madeline Wright at the back of the group, Bree Wilson just in front of her. They're working well together. A lot of it about positioning, just getting caught out. When the acceleration happens, those gaps open up, the elastic, it's frayed, it hasn't completely broken, but it's pretty close to being broken at this point because the peloton waits for no one.
And even if it's one by one that the peloton dwindles down, we can expect that each kilometre there'll be another one or two riders dropping off because the pace is on. Mitchelton Scott are not going to sit up and go too slow, because the danger is if they take the pace off, they're just opening themselves up to attack. So the absolute safest tactic for Mitchelton Scott is ride hard at the front. They've got 4 riders left, less than 30k to go. So I think Lucy Kennedy and Gracie Elvin, well, they're buckling up for a tough finish on the front of the bunch.
So if you look at the profile of this course, what we're seeing is descents where your legs are dead and you're not doing much, and you might be contracting your muscles as you lean into corners, then you're climbing again, then you're descending again. So it breaks up the rhythm of pure climbers as well, and it really favours those who can change their pace quickly.
Oh, the on and off, it can make your legs feel so dead.
At number 35, just going out at the top of the picture, the American champion, Ruth Winder. She's now at 3 seconds behind Amanda Spratt in the general classification. She is right on target. She spoke before the stage got underway, saying, I hope it's hard. She's got her wishes so far.
Well, they sprinted, the intermediate sprint, and you know, we can call it that, but it was more of a drag race for the climbers and the overall contenders. That was at the finish line. If Winder was able to jump over Spratt, well, let's almost say easily, because she did make it look quite easy. Well, that opens Spratt up to a real challenge at the finish. If Winder just follows Spratt around, that would be quite a smart tactic from her at this point. Let Mitchelton Scott do all the work. She's clearly in good form. If she jumps over her at the finish and wins and Spratt takes second, well, she'll take the overall ochre jersey. And then the criterium tomorrow becomes a race for intermediate sprint points.
Well, Ruth Winder, she feels the Trek-Segafredo team brings a lot of benefit to her, riding knowledge and her ambitions, and she explains why.
Trixie is definitely, she's got so much knowledge. It's really, really cool to race with her. We have Ellen Van Dyke also, who I've been teammates with in the past, and it's been cool to be her teammate again. Just so many girls have so much knowledge, especially as an American coming to race in Europe for a lot of the time. My teammates with a lot of European knowledge can really help me feel more prepared for the racing, because some of the girls have been doing those courses their entire lives, and when you come and it's the first time you're doing a Amstel Gold, and you know, there's so many turns, and they're just really helpful. So I really appreciate that.
Experience in the team car is really important, as well as it is with experience on the road. And so far, Kate, the Trek-Segafredo team have been playing a patient game and just picking off their key targets along the way.
Well, between their team director, Yoko Totenberg, who won 233 professional races, that's quite a lot. She's got so much experience, and she's really talking. Right now she's talking the riders through how to react, what to do, and they also have the ability to drop back to the car and have a chat if they do need that. But those other riders that Winder mentioned, like Ellen Van Dyke, she's just one of the most amazing female cyclists that we've ever seen, and so versatile, and for her to be able to pass on the experience that she has, she might not be out on the course with them today, but it's very clear that Winder takes that on board and really helps that, uses that to help her be better. I love that approach. It's very comprehensive.
On the topic of teamwork, at the moment we're seeing Grace Brown go to the front. She wears the red number as the most aggressive yesterday. She started in 4th place overall, 12 seconds behind. Bridie, the Mitchelton Scott team, after yesterday's stage, before today got underway, they spoke about the fact we've still got 2 cards to play. This tells us they're playing 1 card. It's the Spratt card.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is a deja vu, which is to keep the pace high on this winding section. You can see, though, Leah Kirschman in the blue Zip Track Sprint jersey has moved into second wheel, so she's sitting in behind Grace Brown with Kennedy behind her. So, you know, those women are thinking, I want to be in the best position I can. Now there's only about 20 of them in this peloton.
Mitchelton Scott, I think that they've changed their tactic completely because of what happened in that last intermediate sprint. Or maybe not completely. They would have considered that Ruth Winder would sprint. But now that they've seen what she's got, they have to really consider that Winder could just follow her around like she currently is, I might add. The American champion scooch right into Amanda Spratt's wheel in the ochre jersey. All she needs to do is sit there, jump off her wheel like she did in that intermediate sprint, and she takes the ochre. That means that Mitchelton Scott really, they can't afford now to have two cards.
This is the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. Let's take a look at what has happened so far on Subaru Stage 3. We saw a small breakaway as Cricket took a pause to watch the peloton roll on by with Amanda Spratt wearing the leader's jersey. As they headed into the first of the intermediate sprints, there was a strong breakaway group, and one of the locals, Tiffany Cromwell, was amongst them. They made their way up Forest Road, and there was plenty of support suggesting that they ride, and it was Cromwell who got the breakaway moving. It was a good group of 5, and as they headed into the first of the zip track intermediate sprints, they soaked up the points, and they also soaked up the all-important time bonuses, and it was Henderson from the red colours of Sunweb who went across the line in first position. It wasn't long after that, Bridie, that the peloton reeled them back in.
And as they brought them back in, you saw it was another opportunity for riders to try and get away and make a bit of a mark on this race. So as this group came back together in the peloton chase, we actually saw Matilda Reynolds there in the specialised team initiate a break of 6 that became quite dynamic.
Okay, this was a dangerous move. Matilda Reynolds was brilliant yesterday. 16th overall, just 30 seconds behind. A genuine threat as they hit the gravel to the position of Amanda Spratt.
Well, leading on to the gravel, Reynolds just took no prisoners. She just rode at the front, kept the pace consistent and opened up a gap. It wasn't enough, and the main peloton were able to reel them in slightly afterwards. But they did negotiate the gravel without some problems. Mitchelton Scott lost a rider here, Georgia Williams, on the left. She touched wheels and went down. That's one rider down. That makes a real impact. But Mitchelton Scott, they did regroup.
And a mechanical problem for Jamie Gunning. Second position in the UniSA Best Young Rider classification. She's chasing, trying to get back in contact. Into Sterling for the second of the intermediate sprints, the time bonuses. The American champion, Ruth Winder, collecting 3 seconds. Spratt with a 2-second time bonus. Lippert then in third position with a 1-second time bonus. They are the top 3 overall. Spratt's advantage now, it's gone from 4 seconds to 3 seconds ahead of Ruth.
Well, Winder did today in the intermediate what she couldn't do yesterday in the finale. So, you know, she's testing her legs to see as well around timing. When do I go? When do I move out from behind the wheel?
A different sprint today than yesterday, Kate. Entirely different. As you've described it, it's not a sprint at all.
It's a drag race. It's slightly uphill. I mean, the road in and around Sterling and on this loop, there's very few flat sections. With about 2 kilometres to go before the finish, there's about 50 metres of flat, and they go around a roundabout. I mean, if I were them, I'd stop pedalling for 50 metres, regroup. That's the easiest part of the whole course. But the Mitchelton Scott riders, they need to be very diligent. They are. That's Grace Brown at the front. We thought that she may be another card. She's sitting in 4th overall and is a real threat to the GC if they wanted to, but they look like they're all in for Amanda Spratt, and that's in large part because, well, Winder's thrown down the gauntlet in that intermediate sprint and shown they're here for business.
This is a move by FDJ. Is this Brodie Chapman who's trying to go off the front?
She's definitely trying to make a mark and has probably recovered from the very long breakaway that she had in stage 1. But what I'm interested too is Raleigh are very prominent up the front here with their rider Chloe Hosking, who obviously won stage 1. So Brodie's at the moment not a threat to GC, which is why there's been no reaction.
Mitchelton Scott, we saw the Grace Brown chatting into her radio, asking, I suggest, do you want us to jump or just continue to chase? There's 2 ways to bring a breakaway back. One is to interrupt the flow of your rhythm and try and jump across. The other is to just keep going and know that bit by bit they will come back, because in all likelihood Brodie will increase the speed, increase the gap, but then it'll turn around at some point and start to come back. But this is a great move. I mean, she's a pretty classy rider. We saw the other day, she's very tenacious.
She sits in 17th position overall. She's 31 seconds behind the race lead of Amanda Spratt. But she's no immediate threat. 31 seconds, it doesn't sound like a lot, but we saw how quickly that gap can crumble when you're on your own, particularly when we saw her off the front with almost 3 minutes on stage 1.
But I think the significance of this move and of this gap opening up is the reduced number of Mitchelton Scott riders available to chase. So they've lost 2 because they've done so much work earlier in the race, and so there will come a crunch point where Amanda might find herself a bit more isolated or might feel that she has to try and jump across. That will change the dynamic completely.
And this terrain's incredibly similar to when she won the 2018 Herald Sun Tour. You know, the winding uphill roads actually suit her far more than they did on stage 1. So it's better suited to her today.
Is this her going to be something for her teammate, Shara GILLOW, to chase, as she's quickly onto race radio communicating with her team? I'm off the front, send her now.
On these roads, you very quickly get out of sight. And we can't say out of sight, out of mind, because she's certainly not out of mind with how hard they'll be chasing her. But it means that they can't really gauge what the gap is. And when you've got nothing you can see, it feels like they're far, far away. 3 kilometres now until that QOM. And Brodie Chapman, well, we know she's a climber and a time trialer, so she's perfectly placed to take those final QOM points.
The current leader of the Queen of the Mountains classification, that's Liane LIPPERT. She sits on 19 points. In terms of that classification, at the moment, Brodie Chapman is no threat, and mathematically she can't win the classification because today's climb is a Category 3 climb, and with LIPPERT on 19 points, it's only Amanda Spratt, mathematically, who can take that leader's jersey away from her.
And I think she's got other priorities, you know, particularly when she's seen how Winder and LIPPERT are climbing around her in that intermediate zip track sprint. So they're watching each other now. This is all a game of cat and mouse with those 3 riders, and that's also a great opportunity for a rider like Rachel NEYLAN or even Tiff Cromwell, we've seen is still present in the front section of this group. So it's quite a few riders with a lot to do, and Roxsolt riders as well, Herfoss, who had a really good first lap of this climb.
The red number for the most aggressive, that's Grace Brown. She's now been shuffled to the back of the peloton. She sits in 4th position overall, so it shows that she's under a bit of pressure.
It is really difficult sitting at the back. It's absolutely an elastic band.
Well, an update on the fires that have ravaged a large portion of Australia, and the Santos Tour Down Under, it has stepped to the fore, and the Santos Tour Down Under has just announced that it will be fundraising for the communities and the people affected by the recent South Australian bushfires in Cuddly Creek and also Kangaroo Island. Part of that, the team presentation, which is on later tonight, the team presentation presented by Bike Exchange, that's normally a free event. They're now asking for gold coin donation, and the volunteers will be collecting. In addition to that, the Swarble Classic, the riders have all agreed to donate the entire prize money from that event, so there's an extra $20,000. Santos themselves, they've come to the game in a big way. They will be dollar matching, so Santos is committed to dollar match the money raised, including the prize money that the riders have contributed from the Swarble Classic, which is on tomorrow. Plus, they've already contributed $600,000.
Oh, that's just unreal. It's so good to see the community banding together. And for a gold coin donation, you can boogie along to the Veronicas after you see your favourite pro. I mean, if you're in Adelaide, why not?
I know the Veronicas.
You know them?
Or you know them, or you want to boogie with them?
I know of
Oh,
them.
you've heard of them. Quick, call the police. Matthew Keenan is head of a popular group.
He has kids.
What I think is incredible too, we saw some of the footage earlier of those ravaged areas, that there's no doubt the riders have been really affected by that. You know, not just arriving, we've heard riders talk about their families and teams saying they understand what the impact has been, and then you've had teams riding in these areas to recon and get a sense of things, and they want to give something back, they want to contribute. They know how fortunate they are to have the race still be on, given that the hills are still open for business. It's been really important.
And right now, Lucy Kennedy is giving, but the only thing she's giving is paying to the rest of the peloton as they are approaching the top of the Subaru Queen of the Mountain point.
They're within 2 kilometres to the QOM. This is a really critical moment. They'll go over that QOM with 16.7 kilometres left to race. We know the rest of the circuit is very difficult, but this is the first time they will challenge this one. Lucy Kennedy is working hard on the front for Amanda Spratt. Once again, it's about protecting her and keeping her out of danger. Sunweb, well, they're diligent. They've got Liane LIPPERT sitting in 3rd spot. She currently leads the QOM. This is the final one, the final way to take points. Sunweb, I think they'll be motivated. But Lucy Kennedy, well, she's certainly taking no prisoners at the front there.
It's Juliette Lebos who slots into second position. Ella Harris is in third place. And Amanda Spratt in fourth position. She made the tactical decision to slip a little bit further back. She's got LIPPERT directly behind, who is the leader of the Subaru Queen of the Mountains classification. She's been a little bit greedy. She's also the leader of the UniSA Best Young Rider classification. Oh, and don't mind, she sits in third place overall.
Yeah, great performance by the 22-year-old. You said she's been a German national champion in the past. Lippert's really proven herself this week and has such a powerful team with a teammate Kirschman who's holding the Zip Track sprint jersey.
And the team strategy is really becoming quite obvious for both Lippert and also for Winder in that intermediate sprint we saw. The tactic is kind of follow Amanda Spratt. That's really hard actually for Spratty when you look over your shoulder and you feel like you've got a shadow. It's quite a negative way to race, but it's quite smart for both Sunweb and Trek-Segafredo.
Lucy Kennedy is doing a lot of damage. They're still 1,300 metres from the top of the Subaru Queen of the Mountain climb, and Kennedy has been on the front for the past 5+ kilometres, and she's just taking a roll call at the back of the peloton as to who is absent today.
Well, I can tell you that any Strava records on QOMs that Lucy Kennedy has tried, she's got.
There's Usain Bolt there's trying to track along beside them. Very strong running style.
I'm glad that he's got Nick's on and not the Borat outfit actually at this point.
I think
He
it's
almost
safer.
clotheslined himself in one of the trees as well. He just had the peripheral vision to take a duck.
Great to have the fans out on course. That'll actually give the riders a bit of a giggle, I think.
It is good to see. You can see the American national champion to the left of the screen, Ruth Winder. She's in second position overall and she looks comfortable.
Great to see Matilda Reynolds just trying to hold her wheel. We know that she's been really combative today and riding really aggressively, so I want her to hang on to that confidence and perform well to finish.
They make their way up through Stirling. They're still on the climb, however, so it's another chance for them to take a look at the approach to the finish line. And it is still Lucy Kennedy.
She's doing an absolutely tremendous job. We know what a good bike rider she is. We know what a good climber she is. And she's certainly stepping up to take her responsibility here. She's a great teammate. She does what she's told. And that's a really important part of working on a winning team. The cohesion between the team, listening to instructions, doing what you're told, just leaving it all out there. Lucy Kennedy, the perfect example.
Yet she's selfless, but she's also capable of handling the pressure of being a leader. She won the Classico San Sebastian last year, which was a big victory.
We also know with Annemiek van Vleuten as their sort of official team captain and the world champion, what a teammate to have in the Mitchelton Scott team who rides for the Netherlands and will be definitely preparing for Tokyo Olympics. So an extraordinary, diverse squad of riders that Mitchelton have selected really carefully.
The pace has dropped off a little bit though, because we can see some riders bunching up. Let's not say they're blobbing along just yet, but those gaps have closed a bit between wheels, and there's an attack from Canyon SRAM.
Oh, this is getting towards the top of the climb, and this is the battle for points in the race for the Subaru Queen of the Mountains classification. The current leader is Liane Lippert. I don't expect her to pay too much attention to anybody other than Amanda Spratt, as mathematically it's really only Spratt who can get the better of her. It's Ella Harris who is at the front, Spratt in third position. It was Sarah Gigante in second spot.
Chloe Hosking was in fifth wheel as they went over there, so she's doing an exceptionally good job. I mean, she needs to just survive through here and a good wheel to survive. But for her to be that close toward the front of a QOM, well, I see that as very significant and a real threat for that final sprint into the finish.
Great impact by Gigante. We saw her put on a really aggressive move about 10 kilometres ago, but she is putting her hand up and saying, I'm ready to be hired, I'm ready to ride for TIBCO.
And here comes the counter-attack. It's Shara GILLOW now from FDJ who's trying to attack. She's a fabulous time trialist, but she's a slow twitch animal. She's not somebody that's got real explosive power.
She lacks the punch, I think we could say that.
She'd be the first to say that.
Well, I mean, this is the smartest time to attack, is through a QOM, over the top of a sprint.
And and now counted, looks like perhaps Lauren Kitchen, her teammate. So France et Jour are really wanting to have an outcome today, and they haven't done that much. They've been a quiet team for the first 2 stages. So this is their time, and we know Lauren's a really experienced rider. She's ridden at World Championships. She's raced in professional teams in Europe for as long as Chloe HOSKING. So it's 12 years of racing.
And this could be advantageous to Spratt and to Mitchelton Scott, because if a small group got off the front that didn't contain any overall threats, it takes away the threat of Ruth Winder getting time bonuses at the finish.
And the chase is being done by others. That's Leah Kirschman in the blue colours. She's the leader of the zip track points classification. But do you note the specialised colours? Could it possibly be Matilda Reynolds? It looks a little bit too short to be Matilda Reynolds. It's not Matilda this time.
The responsibility here, I think, lays on Trek-Segafredo, because they've got the most to gain with having Ruth Winder won in such good form and sprint form. But up there on the podium, if they lose these time bonuses, well, their threat is gone. And so that's a very big change in dynamic very quickly, isn't it?
What I love about Lauren is that she's a very capable athlete physiologically, but she's really, really smart. So she's made this move, but she's also looking around to make sure she's not wasting any energy. She wants to make this break work. So she's not just going to ride out on her own. Here we can see now a bit of a replay of the Subaru QOM points. There with the Canyon SRAM rider at the front, and second over the line, Sarah Gigante, and Spratt in third. Fourth place looks like Team Segafredo 34, and in fifth, Liane LIPPERT, who's currently in the Subaru Queen of the Mountain jersey.
Which significantly means that for the young German, she holds on to the Subaru Queen of the Mountains jersey inside the final 16 kilometres of Subaru Stage 3 in the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. Santos Tour Down Under. It's coming down to the business end of Subaru Stage 3, destination Stirling. It is the French outfit FDJ who have launched countless attacks in the final 20 kilometres. Matthew Keenan with you, joined by former Australian road champion Kate Bates, a dual Olympian, and also former Australian time trial champion Bridie O'Donnell. This, Kate, is the race for stage honours. A little bit behind them, we're seeing the overall leader, Amanda Spratt, along with second place Ruth Winder Winder and third place Liane Lippert mark each other really closely.
Oh, Leanne Ganser from Rally has gone on the attack. This is great. They've had the ochre jersey with Chloe Hosking earlier in the tour, but Chloe wasn't able to respond yesterday. She's not too far down, but I think this indicates that perhaps she's carrying a bit more fatigue than we may have thought through that QOM. But these attacks are very significant because they make Mitchelton Scott's job a lot easier, and they fall into the lap of Amanda Spratt.
This move off the front by Leanne Ganser, she's at 4 minutes and 58 seconds behind. No threat to the leader's jersey of Amanda Spratt. At the stage finish, there's a 10-second time bonus for the win, 6 seconds for second place, and then it is 4 seconds for third place. At the moment, Amanda Spratt leads by just 3 seconds. It could be well in Mitchelton Scott's interest to have somebody else win the stage and take the time bonuses away, because we saw Ruth Winder get the better of Amanda Spratt in the previous intermediate sprint.
Absolutely, that would be a great strategy for them. We know this is part of the downhill section, and then they'll have one more time up those winding roads through Aldgate to the finish at Stirling. So this actually plays into the hands of quite a few teams who won't be, this is Trek-Segafredo would want to chase. This is Ruth Winder's team would want to chase this.
If this breakaway gets caught and Ruth Winder wins the stage and Amanda Spratt finishes in second position, we head into tomorrow's stage with 1 day of racing to go, and it's Spratt in second place by 1 second with the American national champion in the lead. It's now up to Trek-Segafredo to do the chasing.
I think in the scenario where Winder and Spratt finish together, whether they finish with some time bonuses or not, I think we can expect tomorrow that they will be sprinting for those intermediate time bonuses. There's a couple of sprints tomorrow. There's up to 6 seconds to win. It really sets it up to be very exciting. No matter how cracking this course is and how difficult it has been, it could still come down to intermediate sprint points. How ripper is that? It's fantastic.
Well, also Ruth has an amazing team. She's got Lotte and Thaler as a teammate, Trixie Warwick, who's been in the Pro Peloton since 1923. She's got Taylor Wiles, who rides in the United States and is an absolute crit weapon. So these are the people that Ruth will have looking out for her tomorrow over those 1.7 kilometre circuits. They do 25 laps, and I have full confidence that Ruth would be going in aggressive.
Importantly, number 143, Jamie Gunning, who we saw just moments after the gravel section, second place in the UniSA Best Young Rider classification. We've spotted her for the first time back in this peloton. That's great news for her.
It's great, yeah. I mean, Specialised Women Racing are a really strong team. We've discussed the fact that Matilda Reynolds hasn't backed herself as much as we think that she should. Roxsolt Attaquer going on the move, Emily Herfoss, another Australian domestic team, but one of Australia's most talented young riders. Emily Roper won the Amy Gillett scholarship a few years ago. She took some time off to see whether cycling was really her thing, and she's back. Unfortunately, they're not going to let her go anywhere.
But Kate, the reaction came from Mitchelton Scott. I think they should let those breaks with riders who are under threat go up the road.
I agree, but you need to consider that at this part of a race, they're within the last 10 kilometres to go. They just want to react to everything, remain in control of things. You're right, they should let it go.
Force Trek-Segafredo to do the chase.
But their initial reaction is to move. And so once they've done it, they may then pull back and think, oh dear. But until they know which rider it is, often you just see the attack in your peripheral vision and you move.
In football terms, it's see ball, get ball.
Yeah,
I also
really
think that while this is a Pro Series race, it's an international event. Mitchelton sometimes can still feel about they're the big sister in Australian racing. That they work on the control, command and control sort of mode of racing. They don't like to bluff the way, say, Rally might. And we've heard Chloe Hosking say, oh, well, it's up to other teams. That's not necessarily how Mitchelton behave.
If Leanne Ganser can stay out, this will be by far the biggest win of her career. She has no pro wins to her name so far, so to win a stage in the first ever Pro Series race would be incredible, not only for her but for the rally team. They've already won one stage, worn the ochre jersey. That gap is opening up 41 seconds They may start chasing her back, but 8 kilometres to go. This will be hit and miss, but Ruth Winder, she's got an awful lot to gain. I expect Trek-Segafredo to come to the front, force the pace a bit, and that'll make Mitchelton Scott nervous.
Sunweb in the red colours, they're also chasing as we're inside the last 8 kilometres. Santos Women's Tour Down Under, Subaru Stage 3, destination Stirling. The speed has been incredible. This is a day with almost 1,700 metres worth of altitude gain. That is a lot of climbing in the space of 109 kilometres. The fastest anticipated average speed, 38 kilometres per hour. So far, the average speed, 39 kilometres per hour.
Well, and with only 7 kilometres to go, it's all uphill from now on. And they've done that road twice already in the race. They know what it feels like, and it's going to feel worse the third time around.
They're strung out. When they're single file like this, it indicates that the pace is on. When they're more of a blob, it indicates the pace is off. We saw the blob going down that hill and around the corner. The riders on the back weren't pedalling and were taking a break. Well, that's over. This is now a very difficult last 7.5k, particularly the last 3 kilometres. Trek-Segafredo have so much to gain. Mitchelton Scott actually have quite a lot to lose. This is setting up to be a cracking finish.
It's Sunweb along with Trek-Segafredo who are doing the chasing. It's the blue and white colours at the front, followed by the red colours. You've spoken so often about the island. They're on the island of Stirling. They've formed an alliance, but at the moment it is Amanda Spratt who has the immunity idol, but that idol is fragile. It's just a 3-second advantage in the overall classification.
Now, a rider we haven't seen make a move at all today is Rachel NEYLAN. We know she hasn't so far had 2 stages that she would write home about. We know she's highly talented on these kind of climbs and performed well last year, which would give her some confidence. So I'll be interested to see how she moves over the last 5k.
Liane Ganser still a 51-second gap. In fact, it is increasing, and she's looking very comfortable. She's in the big chainring, but mid-section in her back cluster, she's just very comfortable pedaling along and looking incredibly strong and incredibly smooth and comfortable. 6.7 kilometres to go. I think this could be a winning move.
Her shoulders are not moving.
Well, I always think that the mark of looking comfortable is that you could put a teacup on their back and it wouldn't spill. She's pretty close.
I'll be happy with the fine china on that back. She is stable. Back in the peloton, what's left of it, and it's not very big at all. We're seeing a few reactions. This is a counter-attack. Is that the Sunweb colours trying to go across?
The Boost, number 13, and followed closely by Trixie Warrack. I think it was 36. Oh, no, sorry.
No, it's Shara Gillow.
Shara
Gillow. She's been active. The whole team has. So Shara Gillow is trying to respond. FDJ, the French outfit, they want a piece of the action.
Krista Dobel-Highcock, the rally rider, she was in the top 5 overall at the Tour Down Under last year. She's an incredibly strong rider. She'll neutralise that move. She won't work at all. She shouldn't work at all because it's her teammate Liane Ganser that is currently leading the race and going for the stage victory.
And the next counter-attack comes. This time it's Taylor Wiles. Is this an attack or is this just making the most of the momentum and winding it up? She's got her former teammate behind her, Amanda Spratt.
I think this is definitely from Trek-Segafredo, the moment where they're starting to really use their team to command a chase back and to take some control. Realistically, even if a rider stays away, they could still take the lead today. I mean, there are still bonus seconds at the finish line, and Trek-Segafredo need to just contribute in every single way they can to put Ruth Winder in the best position she possibly can. You'll notice Amanda Spratt sitting second wheel. To me, that indicates that perhaps her teammates are a bit spent. You know, I can't see Gracie Elvin. I'm not sure where Lucy Kennedy is. I think she may be a bit isolated in that bunch. That's pretty significant, especially leading into that final sprint. Less than 6 kilometres left to go. There's Lucy Kennedy making her way back up, but carrying a bit of fatigue. This is really playing out a bit differently than I think they thought it would.
Lucy Kennedy is the only rider from Mitchelton Scott that I was able to spot. That doesn't mean that there's not another one in there. If there is one more in there, the only one I think it will be is Grace Brown. Bridie, that gap is 34 seconds, 5.6 kilometres remaining. It will be tight.
It's very exciting though for Ganser because she's actually a long way down on GC, nearly 5 minutes behind. So she's of no threat to the Ochre jersey, which is great for her, and it's great for the teams who are trying to control a finish like this.
And this is what I think is so interesting about it. They're chasing so hard, but they're not chasing her because she's a threat to overall. They're chasing her because they want those time bonuses. We so often forget how much time bonuses contribute. But when it's a shorter tour, when it's not 10 days and there's not all these opportunities for mountaintop finishes and long breakaways, it quite often does come down to those moments. From the very first zip track intermediate sprint, people were chasing, they showed their intention to chase those intermediate points. Liane Ganser, I'm so impressed. For a rider who is significantly down, which means she had quite a tough day yesterday, as the team name says, she's really rallying.
She is. The 30-year-old has an advantage of 30 seconds. She's been close to some big wins in the past. Last year, she had a third-place finish on a stage in the Tour of California. It's an tenuous lead because the chase is on from behind by the American outfit Trek-Segafredo. 5.2 kilometres remaining. Subaru Stage 3 of the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. Still Trek-Segafredo, Taylor Wiles.
You've got Elmo, and is that the Cookie Monster?
That is the Cookie Monster. There's no time for feeding now. Feeding closed with 20 kilometres remaining. Emily Herfoss is at the back of the peloton, 1:53. Just in front of her is Jamie Gunning. Jamie Gunning is 18 seconds down in the race for that white jersey for the UniSA Best Young Rider classification.
What a great story about the National Road Series. You've got Gigante, Herfoss and Gunning, riders that have been racing each other in Tasmania, Gippsland, Grafton to Inverell, all of these events. It's fantastic for them.
This is Janelle Crooks from TIBCO, now been distanced, but the road plateaus. She's a chance to get back in contact.
No, she is a chance to get back in contact. It's just that elastic band at the back. I saw the rider from New Zealand, rider number 124, Rushley Buchanan, is still hanging in there. That's pretty impressive. She's a track rider, and the New Zealand team here are getting ready for the Track World Championships and the Olympics. They've just gone within 5 kilometres left to go. Oh, I tell you what, there's a lot of relief that comes with seeing the 5k to go sign, even though you're going uphill.
Yeah,
but even though you're going
clambering
uphill
for a wheel, thinking, no, when will it be over?
At the front of the peloton, Trek-Segafredo still pouring the pressure on Janelle Crooks. That moment of respite is not going to be enough.
Well, Janelle's a really great climber, and so her ability to kind of generate enough power to bridge across may not be what she needs in this kind of stage.
It's an indicator of how hard the bunch are going. It does, from the back, look a bit like they're blobbing along, but riders getting dropped off indicate that the speed is quite high at the front. It does look to be single file, and it's Lucy Kennedy once again.
My legs entirely disagree with you. It does not look as if they are just cruising along at the back. And I'm on the comfortable side of the fence. This is an impressive tempo that has been set at the front. 4.1 kilometres, 18 seconds. It is still the lead for Liane Ganser, the young American. Well, not that young, really. She's at 30 years of age. She's in the sweet spot of her career. This is the time. Normally, historically, it's that 28 to 34, perhaps up to 36 for the women, which you get the best results. This could be her big chance, but 14 seconds, it's not a lot.
And this is a great outcome for the team rally. You know, they came here and won the first stage with Hosking, but to have these American riders come out here and to be learning from Chloe, who's the national criterium champion, is a really incredible experience. And like you said, Kate, this is the biggest. I mean, here she is on the screens all over the world in a Pro Series race, out on her own. Her family would be proud. Her coach must be pumped. It's a really great outcome.
It is a fabulous ride by her. I don't think she'll survive. I think Trek-Segafredo and Mitchelton Scott, they want more control of the race. There is potential if Amanda Spratt wins the stage to also give herself a much bigger buffer in the overall, making the chance that they don't have to go for those intermediate sprint points tomorrow for the time bonuses. So both Mitchelton Scott and Trek-Segafredo have quite a strong agenda into this finish. Ruth Winder and Amanda Spratt are being lined up, as well as Liane LIPPERT, for a big finish, a sprint finish amongst the climbers.
Yeah, and for Amanda Spratt, if she was to win the stage, it would make for a much calmer night's sleep. If she doesn't win the stage and it's down to 1 second either side of the ledger, it could be a restless night tonight.
Well, we've got team presentation tonight. I can ask her how she's feeling about the impending sleep.
She will be keeping her cards very close to the chest. One thing I can recommend is don't play poker with Amanda Spratt. She's got the ultimate poker face.
Well, she came up through the New South Wales Institute of Sport under Gary Sutton, just like I did, and nobody teaches a poker face.
Oh, is that where you all learn?
Yeah, it's a poker face class. Yes, he does it very well, and that's from riding so much on the track behind the motorbike.
3 kilometres remaining. Stage 3, it's off the Sterling. Liane Ganser still out in front, but it's inside 10 seconds now. Her body language hasn't changed.
Oh, she looks great. She looks smooth. I mean, I wonder at this point if she's just carrying a bit of fatigue and just can't put it in a bigger gear. So this is it. She does look smooth, but she's not able to, because I wanted to put it in a bigger gear.
She wants to as well.
I do. I say, come on, click down a few, get out of the seat and make the most of this. I think, to be honest, she's probably a bit fried, even though she looks so good on the bike. That's not quite a poker face.
No.
Now, while they're not winning team classifications, don't forget Team Sunweb, so there are 2 riders on the front here. That team has 3 jerseys. They have the Subaru Queen of the Mountain jersey, the Young Rider jersey, and they have the Zip Track Sprint jersey. So they want to control things, but there's also this sense of, like, we're actually doing okay here in this race. And they would be saying to Trek-Segafredo and Mitchelton, not our job to do any of this chasing, we just want control.
But they can win the race overall. They are still in with a chance. In the overall standings at the moment, LIPPERT, given the time bonuses that we've seen awarded so far throughout today's stage, with the second of the intermediate sprints, she's in 3rd place. She's 6 seconds behind. Win the stage. There's a 10-second time bonus. Tomorrow, there's intermediate sprints, plus the stage victory is up for grabs. She can still win this race overall. Why not get greedy? Why not go for the lots? It's down to almost 10 seconds. It's less than that. Just on 2 kilometres remaining.
Team Sunweb have come with so much intention. I've said a number of times this week, the Red Army, because they move en masse and they haven't isolated anybody at any point, that is super impressive. Liane Ganza will get reabsorbed back into this bunch fairly soon, I think, but with 2 kilometres left to go, this is the 50 metres of flat I was talking about, this roundabout. They've been through here a number of times. It is all uphill from here. Mitchelton Scott, Sunweb, Trek-Segafredo, they're on the march.
Race radio indicating 10 seconds is the gap. Out of the saddle, what is left is getting poured onto the road for Liane Ganza, but the peloton are breathing down her neck. They're starting to set up for the sprint more so than chase the breakaway.
Total kudos to Ganza. She looks fabulous on a bike and she's given herself every opportunity today. So that's a great outcome for a rally, but I'm really interested to see now how Sunweb, Trek-Segafredo work together. You can see Kennedy there just dropping off the back.
And Kennedy dropping off the back, or dropping to the back after all the work she's done, is very significant because Amanda Spratt is alone. She's isolated now. Team Sunweb at the front taking control. It's Leah Kirschman sitting in 3rd. She holds the Zip Track Sprinters jersey. Liane Lippert is sitting in 4th. They're really taking control. 1.5 kilometres left to go. Trek-Segafredo are coming up on the left, but where's Amanda Spratt?
It's Anna Henderson who is on the front. She is beginning the lead outs. Ganza is almost caught, but just like Brodie Chapman on stage 1, she's waiting until the collect completely happens.
Well, they're not chasing her, they're going for the stage win. The fact that they will catch her and absorb her on the way is just part of it. Sunweb, they've got a very single focus now. And Liane Lippert is in a great position because her team are doing an absolute ripper job.
And Spratt has drifted back a couple of positions, learning from the intermediate sprint, where it was Ruth Winder who came from behind. Ganza has been caught. The race is on for stage honours. Lucy Kennedy is moving around the outside, number 5 for Mitchelton Scott, at the bid to support Amanda Spratt. And Chloe Hosking in the orange colours is also there.
You can see Rachel now moving up into 2nd wheel behind the Mitchelton Scott rider, that's Kennedy. So she's moving herself into the best position.
Rachel Neylan was 3rd here last year. She knows this sprint exceptionally well, and before the stage she marked it as something she was both excited about and very experienced in. She's riding a great race, sitting in 4th wheel here. She knows how to win bike races and she knows how to place on these stages.
Left hand side of the road, orange jersey Chloe Hosking, directly behind her ochre jersey number 1 Amanda Spratt. But
Amanda's
she's getting shuffled.
back.
She's getting shuffled a little bit here, Amanda Spratt. This is a big opportunity for Ruth Winder. If the American wins the stage, she can take the leader's jersey.
Such a tough uphill finish here, such a hard section. The riders really have no opportunity to drop their guard at all. Roxsolt, Attaquer, Emily Herfoss is sitting there, number 153.
This is Kirschman.
Leah Kirschman.
Leah Kirschman, the blue colours. Peter Mullens sticks to her wheel. The reaction coming from behind, that is Harris that gets onto her wheel. And now we're seeing Chloe Hosking move up. It is Ruth Winder who's in 2nd spot. She's behind her teammates. And then it's Winder, Hosking, followed by Spratt.
This is really important, the position here. Spratt needs to get up onto the wheel of Ruth Winder. She showed that she can sprint on this exact finish line earlier in the day when she popped around Amanda Spratt. Ruth Winder, Amanda Spratt, they're setting up for the finish here. Lucy Kennedy has dropped back, but Amanda's got a good wheel. Taylor Wiles is leading out for Trek-Segafredo. Canyon SRAM on the outside. They've opened up the sprint.
They're going early. Harris it is. Ruth Winder up the left-hand side of the road. She slots into second position. She's waiting. It's then Chloe HOSKING in the orange colours. Harris leads out. Winder is waiting. HOSKING is also poised to pounce. Spratt is patient. The American champion is coming. Ruth Winder opens up. The stage win for the American. With it, she will collect the leader's jersey. If she can hold on, she has. In second position is LIPPERT. Winder wins the stage. She takes the 10-second time bonus. She's the new race leader.
Outstanding finish by Winder. What? Its timing of it was perfect, and she had HOSKING on her wheel, and the HOSKING couldn't get around her.
Amanda Spratt, she had the intention, but we could see she kept getting shuffled back. She was trying to hold the wheel of Chloe HOSKING, hoping maybe that HOSKING could jump. That shows to me that she was carrying a bit of fatigue in the legs, because that was not the smartest position to be in. She knew it. She was aiming for Winder's wheel, but wasn't quite able to get there. What a turnaround. I mean, how exciting does this make tomorrow's race? Because tomorrow we're going to have the climbers and the GC riders sprinting for every intermediate sprint point. What an incredible race.
Chloe HOSKING has collapsed. There is the gap between winning and the minor placings. Ruth Winder is on her feet and she is celebrating. This was uphill sprinting to perfection.
Ruth Winder opened it up on the outside, and you can see Amanda Spratt just getting caught a little bit further back. Ella Harris from Canyon SRAM, well, she really set up Ruth Winder, and she just popped around the outside. Such a commanding win. LIPPERT, the German, the young German from Sunweb, sitting third in overall. Well, she nearly got to her. She moved a bit late. But Ruth Winder, that was absolutely sensational for LIPPERT to sneak into second too. Well, it's made that top three very interesting.
What that does in terms of the general classification, Ruth Winder now leads 7 seconds ahead of both Amanda Spratt, but we've now got also Liane LIPPERT at 7 seconds behind. She has a 6-second time bonus. She's on equal time in second place with Amanda Spratt.
With one stage to go, I don't remember ever seeing a race quite this exciting and nail-biting. I mean, tomorrow is going to be just absolutely sensational. What incredible racing from these women.
Ruth Winder takes the stage victory. Liane LIPPERT in second position. The American Lauren Stevens in third place. It was then Peta MULLENS, Chloe HOSKING, CHURSINA once again in sixth, Ella Harris, Shara GILLOW, Rachel NEYLAN in 10th place, Amanda Spratt. The legs were heavy.
Well, look, Mitchelton Scott did an incredible job today. They worked so very hard for Amanda Spratt. It didn't quite pay off, but they'll have to regroup for tomorrow. Still one stage left.
One stage to come on the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. Ruth Winder, the winner of stage 3. She moves into the leader's jersey. Plenty still to come.
So yummy! Oh, so juicy.
Didn't know what to expect because I've never been to Worm Adelaide. I would say make sure you have a lot of time to hang around because there's so many things that you can discover that you've never heard of. So I think it's just like, yeah, just have time, be open and walk around because you'll see a lot of things you've never seen before in this. what's great about Warm Adelaide. Yeah.
So far so good, loving it. It's a great mix of people. Very eclectic music from all around the world. Love it.
It's the stuff that you don't know that's there, and that's what makes a difference.
Women's Tour Down Under, and the overall standings have been turned on their head. The American national champion, Ruth Winder, collects the stage victory, and she moves to the top of the general classification. Kate Bates, with one stage remaining, she holds on to a 7-second advantage over Liane LIPPERT and Amanda Spratt.
But there's 19 seconds worth of time bonuses if you win everything tomorrow, so it's still a very open race.
Bridie O'Donnell, this was dubbed as the Queen stage, and it didn't disappoint.
Yeah, Subaru Stage 3 was incredibly exciting. We had crosswinds and the bunch being split apart. They rode through fire-ravaged areas. We saw some really fantastic initial attacks with riders trying to get away. Initially a group of 5, with Anderson from the Sunweb team taking out the first intermediate sprint. And then we saw other riders initiating breaks as the race progressed.
There was a gravel section on the course that came after, or with 46 kilometres to go. It was 1 kilometre long. This was images of Henderson going through the first of the intermediate sprints. It was Cromwell in second place. As they approached the gravel section, there was a dangerous breakaway of 6. Matilda Reynolds was there, just 30 seconds down to the overall standings.
A very real threat to the overall if that break stayed away. And the gravel, well, it always creates some drama, a bit of a touch of wheels here, and significantly for Mitchelton Scott, they lost 2 riders there. They lost both Georgia Williams and Jessica Allen, which has really hurt Amanda Spratt, I think.
That was Jamie Gunning in the white jersey for the UniSA Best Young Rider. She's actually in second position in that classification. Eventually, she got back in contact. Heading to Stirling for the first time, the second of the Zip Track intermediate sprints. And this was not a battle for the blue points jersey. This was a battle for time bonuses. And Ruth Winder gave us an insight of what was to come. She got the better of Amanda Spratt, getting 1 second closer. It was then onto the Subaru Queen of the Mountains, where the young German, Liane LIPPERT, secured that classification.
A sensational ride by Sunweb and for the 22-year-old German to take that overall QOM jersey. Ruth Winder, in that intermediate sprint, well, she changed the overall tactics for Mitchelton Scott by getting those bonus seconds. Mitchelton had to change from we've got many options into we have to do everything for Amanda Spratt. And this was the move by Liane Ganser, the rally teammate of Chloe Hosking, riding away from the group with around 15 kilometres to go and really demonstrating her sort of cool, calm, collected style. She just remained out there on her own in this sort of metronomic pace while the bunch dwindled behind her.
Behind her, the chase was being led by Sunweb. Frances de Jure with Shara GILLOW tried to get into the thick of the action. And number 5 for Mitchelton Scott, Lucy Kennedy. She was the main teammate, almost the only teammate across the last 16 kilometres left to support Amanda Spratt. When it came down to the sprint finish, it was Ella Harris who was leading out. Then Ruth Winder, she opened up. Lauren Stevens tried to get amongst it. Liane LIPPERT was over the top for second place. And in 10th position today was Amanda Spratt. That's a sign of fatigue, or perhaps the early season form isn't where it's targeting to be in August come the Olympics.
Well, Amanda Spratt has a lot of priorities this year, but she certainly has started the year on a high. But Ruth Winder just too strong. She showed that in the intermediate sprint. She showed it in the final. And Trek-Segafredo, they've done a tremendous job here in supporting her. Ina Yoko-Totenberg, the team director, look how pleased she is. It's just sensational. Ina is a lady who's won more professional races than anybody but Marianne Vos. So she's certainly someone who can create the momentum and give good mentoring for winning such a big race.
From the Adelaide Hills, stage 3, Subaru to, it was the Subaru stage 3 to Sterling. Winder taking the win, Lippert in second position, Stevens in third place. Mullens in fourth, she was solid. Good ride by Chloe HOSKING in fifth position, but Amanda Spratt in 10th place. She has said all along that she wanted to start the season a little bit slower because she has big objectives later in the year. Second position, equal second position overall. She's at 7 seconds behind. She can still do it. So too can Liane Lippert. There's 19 seconds worth of time bonuses tomorrow.
With no breakaway, there's 3 that could potentially win. Just on the time bonuses. It ain't over till it's over. Trek-Segafredo, Team Sunweb, and also Mitchelton Scott, they've all proven to be exceptionally strong teams who are very dedicated to the cause.
Leah Kirschman from the Sunweb team, she leads the zip track sprint classification. Her teammate, Liane Lippert, is in second spot. Chloe HOSKING is a big chance to take that out tomorrow.
We know she's motivated to take a jersey away from this race and performed so well on stage 1, and you can see that her rally teammates are motivated and they're fit.
And Tala is in fourth position in that classification, but she's got a job to do tomorrow for Ruth Winder. For the Queen of the Mountain, Subaru Queen of the Mountain, it's Liane Lippert ahead of Marika van Witzenberg, then Amanda Spratt. That is secured. The German can focus on trying to get the 7 seconds back from the American Ruth Winder.
We saw her sprint into this finish today, actually very, very powerful to come around Lauren Stevens. So Lippert's sprinting very, very well and could definitely take back 7 seconds.
At 22 years of age, she's proving herself to be quite a force on the international scene. I think we're only just beginning to see what's to come.
She's also the leader of the UniSA Best Young Rider classification. Juliette Lebos moves up to second position today. Ella Harris is in third place, followed then by Ruby Rose Mangannon. As at the back of today's stage, it looked as if Jamie Gunning paid the price for the chase that she had early on with the mechanical problem.
Frustrating time for her to puncture and need a wheel change. And so it took her some time to get back in contact.
Let's get down to Jens Vogt, who has the stage winner and the new race leader with him.
Well, first of all, congratulations. That was a fantastic win. Was it kind of tricky to negotiate your last effort? Did the team help you? Take us through the last, let's say, 500 meters of the race, please.
Yeah, my teammate Taylor Wiles, she was just leading me out perfectly. I was just talking to her the whole time, and we've been teammates for years, and she's helped me with so many wins, so every time I do, I feel so grateful to her in the last 500 meters, but the entire team, the whole race, was really active at the front, covering things, making sure I was really safe until those circuits, which were pretty hard with Mitchelton just drilling in on the climbs pretty much.
So now the race is just finished. You already had time to think about the strategy for tomorrow's stage?
I mean, tomorrow is a criterium-style race with, I think, 19 seconds on the road and bonus sprint, so we'll see how that goes. I had to put some sprinter legs on, probably ride my Madone, which is the faster Trek bicycle, but we also have Lotta, who's a super fast sprinter. She got second on the first stage, and we're really looking to see if we can get her on the podium again.
Thank you very much. Best of luck for you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Importantly, she did mention her teammate Hentala, who will help her tomorrow. Swarble stage 4. Let's take a look at the course. It's 25 laps around a reasonably technical course. It's a new course for the race, Kate Bates, and there are 19 seconds up for grabs, and the race leader is well aware of it.
It is a fantastic course for the fans to come out and to watch, but it is very twisty and turny, and I think more significant than those intermediate sprint points is just staying safe and keeping out of trouble. Trek-Segafredo have a big advantage because Ruth Winder doesn't need to sprint for those intermediate points if her teammate Lotta Hentala does, because if she can take those bonus seconds off anybody else, well, that's all they need to do. They're already wearing the ochre jersey. I think we can expect a really dynamic race, a very aggressive race. It's 42.5 kilometres. I mean, I think after what they've been through for the last 3 days, they'll really relish this opportunity.
We know how big this race is for the Mitchelton Scott team. Amanda Spratt is 7 seconds behind. What they've got left in the tank, they will throw at the road tomorrow.
They absolutely will, and some of these riders will recover and feel relieved that they're back on flat ground. Gracie Elvin, Jess Allen are dynamite in these sorts of courses. But let's not forget a rider like Matilda Reynolds. Specialized will want to put their name on the map. She tried some things today, and tomorrow is a course that really suits her. Similarly with Peta Mullens, we know she can win fast bike races on flat circuits. So I'm really excited.
But you have to stay safe. And there's an awful lot of corners in the criterium tomorrow. There's an awful lot of opportunities to touch wheels. They have to be diligent. It makes me a little bit nervous when I see a course map like that, and I know that there is so much on the line. So I think they just need to be a bit cautious as well. The teams, the big teams, Trek-Segafredo, Mitchelton Scott and Sunweb, they need to patrol the front, keep it controlled and just keep their riders out of danger.
Let's hear what the riders themselves think of Stage 4.
Stage 4, the short and sharp city circuit. The race I don't think will be over by this point. You're going to want to stay out of trouble and really go for those sprints.
I'm actually really excited for Stage 4 because being a North American, I've done a ton of crit racing and I really love that kind of racing. So, you know, technical, fast circuits in city centres. And yeah, for Stage 4, there's still a lot of time bonuses on the line and with the finish. So I think if the GC is still close coming into that final day, then you could still see changes up until the very end of the race.
Stage 4 still brings back goosebumps from last year. I was actually racing it like a track points race, trying to get bonus seconds to climb up to third on the podium, which I did. So, yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to be for me this year, but definitely up for the challenge if that replays itself. There's bonus seconds up for grabs every, I think, 3 times throughout the criterium, throughout the circuit. So it just depends how close the GC will be as to how aggressive the race will be. But in the final, it's always one for the sprinters.
So Stage 4, classic city circuit, but new and improved this year, including parts of the village, which is the first time for us. So great, of course, Chloe, she's already earmarked that one. And being the newly crowned criterium champion, she loves her circuit, so watch out for her. We expect a very fast finish. There's still a few dark horses out there like Anastasiia, who could absolutely come in and change things up in this race.
What will be interesting tomorrow, Bridie, is we'll see sprinters such as Chloe Hosking mixing it up with the riders that we classify as climbers because they're racing for the general classification. This could get hectic.
It could get a bit like this. There'll be teams like, I need something, and the other teams saying, well, we need something too. You know, get out of my way. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Kate, we heard from Ruth Winder in the interview with Jens, and she spoke about the fact that Hentala can win the stage tomorrow. That sounds like somebody that's really confident that she can take care of that 7-second buffer that she's got.
Well, what I was most impressed with in that interview is the emotion, because it means a lot to Ruth Winder to be in that ochre jersey leading into tomorrow, to have that passion and to know that you have such a strong team and a possibility to win a stage from a teammate. That's a lot of confidence, and you know, I really like that, but I don't think it's over for the Australians, and Mitchelton Scott, they've still got a really big opportunity tomorrow as well. So a race within a race within a race.
It's 1 day remaining in the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. Swarble Stage 4 tomorrow. It's the American Ruth Winder who holds on to a 7-second advantage. Can she stay at the top of the general classification? Join us tomorrow to find out.